Hoping to discuss today perhaps how Coke Studio came about and subsequently what processes have come off of it, and you know they're thought inspiring, and I thought I'd share some of those thoughts with you. I don't know how many of you are musical or musicians, but so some of this may seem a little technical. But I'll try and skim through the very complex details and try and stick to the stuff that that might make more sense. Now, I wanted to discuss nature, natural processes, and unnatural processes, and how they affect us in our daily life. We find that in Sufic traditions and mystical traditions, we have what is referred to as the divine sound, the sound that created everything. Perhaps in quantum physics, you can call that the theory, the string theory. But what it is that everything at a quantum level is in vibration. The spiritualists long ago call this divine, in the Hindu tradition you call it the Om, the root frequency. In Islamic traditions you call kun, the sound of, that was the command that was given for things to become. It is be. Kun means be, and it was, as the Quran says. So there's this significance of the divine origin of sound, that at the root of the beginning there was sound. Now, sound as we know it seems to be the stuff that falls on our ears, but sound actually, or vibration, is actually a spectrum. It's a frequency spectrum. It is apparently infinite. It's interesting to note where our senses are tuned. We see in a certain spectrum, we feel in a certain spectrum, we hear in a certain spectrum. And these are very interesting 5 different spectrums that we call senses, because they're all tuned to deal with different aspects of the same big spectrum. Past our senses, of course, now we know that there's the ultraviolet, the infrared, and beyond that, the micro, and this, that, the ultra, but it's important to know where our 5 senses are tuned to and why. And that's what's thought-provoking. As nature would have it, anything that has manifested or has come into the state of wujud is visible to the eyes. That's the spectrum the eyes are tuned to. So we tend to believe things that we see as real. If you can't see it, it's usually not there. But as we know, instruments are measuring a lot more, and there's a lot more in this room that we don't see. But if we had the instruments, we realize that. So reality gets a reality check, that there's more to reality than we think there is. Likewise, sound has a certain spectrum. It's there, but it's not yet manifest. You can't see it, but you know it exists. So it gives it this fluid-like state where it's still not materialized or formed into matter. In quantum sort of terminology, you'd call it a wave, whereas you'd call the spectrum of visibility particle. So you've got this wave particle, and again, in quantum physics, there's an interesting thing that at a quantum level, everything's both a particle and a wave. So we are wave and particle. Everything is, right? So which basically shouldn't come as a surprise to us, because there's a part of me that's hidden from everybody else. That's my wave function. That's my soul, as the spiritualists will call it, and this is my body. It's that part of me that's the particle. It's manifested. So, with that sort of understanding of where our senses are tuned to, we find that nature works in a really interesting manner. It heals, it survives. It survived all this time. We're sitting here because obviously nature did something right. We're products of nature. And how it's really interesting. These may be simple things, but I think they require pondering, because the processes of nature throws this random dice into everything. We have the seed of uniqueness in us all. That's why we all look different. That's why we have fingerprints that are absolutely different. But we're all humanoids, so there's a similarity, yet there's a seed of uniqueness that separates us from each other. It even separates us from our siblings. We are different from our own siblings for a very good reason.